Hello, it's Arthur. So, I've had a pretty rough week, and having this bad time, there have been moments where I felt angry, or mad, or irritated, that shitty things have been happening to me. And it's caused me to reflect on the fact that this type of emotional response is something that I didn't really have pre-testosterone, and is honestly something I'm grateful for. Which I think is pretty surprising to me, and it might be surprising to you as well. Before I started testosterone, I was really terrified at the prospect of becoming like an angry man. We see all the time depicted these sort of images of very toxic masculinity where men who are mad are dangerous. They punch walls, they beat up women, they do terrible, awful things. And I was kind of horrified that in wanting to be a man and in starting testosterone, I might display those traits myself. When I look at trans spaces online, like on Reddit or Facebook or Twitter, I'll see that as one of the top fears people express of like emotional changes that you experience on testosterone, is that they're worried about what will happen if they experience anger. And so I wanted to talk about how sometimes anger can be good, and how I've actually enjoyed feeling the capacity to experience anger. So to do this, I'm going to first talk about how I experienced emotions pre-testosterone, and then how testosterone shifted the way that I handle things, and how anger fits into that. Pre-testosterone, I often felt overcome with emotions. So I felt sadness just very intensely. And I was never someone who, I never had clinically diagnosed depression, but if something happened to me and it affected me, it was really hard to not succumb entirely to that feeling in the moment. This would often impede my ability to have a healthy response. So my sophomore year in college, there was a time where my best friend started dating my other best friend. And that was just really devastating for me because I was already kind of lonely. And to see my two closest people get together like that and spend a lot of time with each other and not with me was something that was really hard. The way that I handled those emotions then was, well, like, I didn't. The emotions just swept over me, and I just remember, like, crumpling in bed, being so sad and so worried and so scared and feeling alone, and it impeded my ability to, like, talk with these friends and say, like, hey, what's going on? What's the plan here? Or to go reach out and make new friends. Or to sort of like reflect and journal about the reasons why I was feeling bad. All I could experience was the fact that I was feeling really bad. And that wasn't just like one instance. That just persisted for weeks. And that would happen all the time. It wasn't even just this. My ex, when I was dating him, we had this moment where we were going to open up our relationship in the future, and before we had officially opened it up, he downloaded Tinder to pursue women exclusively on Tinder for the validation that women would give him that I wasn't giving him since I had already started my sort of presentation-wise social transition. When he did that, I just felt so sad, and I felt devastated, and I felt disgusted by my body and disgusted by my transness, and those feelings were just so overwhelming. I wasn't angry at him for having broken my trust. I was sad and I was upset, and mostly with myself. I continued to date him despite this. And so the ways that I experienced emotions really prevented me from taking actions to improve my life, because I would just be so overwhelmed with the experience of having the emotion that I couldn't game plan for what to do next. And I was in therapy, and I was journaling, and I was trying to make healthy life choices, but there was something that just wasn't working right for me about this balance of emotions in my head. When I started testosterone, my life got a lot better because I transitioned and because I was happy, but there was also sort of a direct effect on my brain chemistry that was really obvious to me. I remember when I was talking with my gender therapist before I started testosterone, that I was expressing like worries about the fact I might have to stay on it forever. And he was like, you don't need to stay on it forever. I know lots of guys who start testosterone and eventually decide to stop. He's like, but most who are considering stopping at some point don't. They like it a lot. And I remember thinking to myself, well, what do I need out of testosterone? I want my voice to drop. I want to get some facial hair. I want to be able to pass. Once testosterone gives me that, sure, I'll probably stay on it, but if I need to go off it, no big deal, as long as my voice is dropped. But man, I was so surprised. The biggest change I've experienced from testosterone is feeling like my brain chemistry works. Feeling like my emotions finally work for me. And like I am able to take control and improve my life because of the way that testosterone just allows my brain to work. And so even though I think many of my physical changes have kind of stalled out, I certainly hope I can be in testosterone for life because I just feel so good. One of the first things I noticed was that I felt like my emotions had a little bit of space between me and them. And I think this is definitely yeah, in part that I continued to be in therapy, and so in that sense I was able to sort of leverage the distance that testosterone gave me from my emotions to take positive changes in my life. But the way I can best describe it is that before testosterone, when I would have an emotion, so I'd feel happiness just wash over my body, I'd feel sadness just wash over my body, I'd feel jealousy and anxiety, and I had no control. Now with testosterone, most of the time, if the emotions aren't too strong, the way it feels is that the emotion approaches me. And so I experience a feeling of, oh, happiness is coming towards me. Oh, anxiety is here. Oh, I see that I have jealousy. And it's like one step removed, is I see that I have the experience of feeling this, rather than I am just succumbed to this. And that has really, really helped me, and it's been great. And what's wild is, I have some friends who are trans women and who've gone on HRT in sort of the other direction, and they experience the exact opposite of what I've experienced. It's not like everyone should be on testosterone, by any stretch of the imagination. It's that some people work well with some hormones in their body, and others work well with other hormones in their body. And so the trans women I talk to say that they felt numb, and they felt kind of emotionally dead before they started HRT. And that with starting HRT, they feel creative, and they feel able to experience feelings that they've never felt before, and they feel like a depth to their life. And like, that sounds cool and awesome. And I kind of had the flipped experience. An important part of the emotional changes on testosterone that have helped me feel like me has been the capacity to feel anger. Feeling anger has allowed me to think about my values, what I deserve, and what I should stand up for. I think about the time where I was dating that ex and where I was just crying desolate in the bathroom about the fact that he had gone on Tinder seeking women and that I was no longer a woman. And I didn't feel anger at all because I wasn't capable of feeling it. And I think I should have felt anger. Our relationship for the most part was excellent, and I think he's a wonderful person, but he did a bad thing, and it's reasonable to be angry at someone for doing a bad thing. I deserved better, and I should be mad that I wasn't given that. Instead, I just felt sad and empty and like worthless, and those aren't really good emotions for making changes. Those are emotions for just getting stuck. And now, being on testosterone, I've found many situations where experiencing anger has allowed me to not feel stuck, and to stick up for myself and other people. I have this really amazing friend group and this really close dear friend of mine who host regular parties for the queer community. And this is sort of a minor example, but this one friend has spent a lot of his own money buying alcohol and decorations for parties. People were supposed to Venmo him, and many people didn't, including people I'm close to, and as a result, he was out like hundreds of dollars. I just remember feeling really angry on his behalf, and feeling like that sucks, and he doesn't deserve that, and that people who I'm close to and who he's close to should be willing to Venmo him for parties they went to. And that with that sort of anger, like, I was able to channel that to reach out and bother people, and then he said he got a lot more people Venmoing him. The examples of anger that we see in society that are so terrible and dangerous, where someone beats someone up while drunk or punches the wall, are when someone doesn't have good control of their emotions. And so I think that's why my experience with anger has been so positive, is that I'm in therapy, I have a good support system, I generally have good control over my life, and so I'm able to treat anger like any other emotion. It doesn't need to inherently be dangerous as long as you know how to work with it. I treat anger not as a reason to lash out randomly or to hurt someone, but as a sort of sign that something needs to change and that I need to take action. It can feel so good to be angry. So this week, to reference the rough week, I had my top surgery canceled for the 3rd time. And so now I was supposed to get it in a month, but I'm going to get it in 3 months. And my first reaction, yeah, it wasn't actually anger. It was feeling really sad and really hopeless. I am so ready to have top surgery, and I was so excited to spend some of the summer on the beach. And I deserve that. And so, of course, at first I felt like hopeless in my body, and I felt really sad, and that something I was looking forward to had been taken from me. And that initial reaction makes sense to me, but it wasn't helpful. At the end of the day, my top surgery date got postponed. That's not the fault of my body, that's not the fault of my transness, that's not the fault of me. And allowing those feelings of despair and sadness to just linger puts like really negative thoughts into my brain about who I am that just aren't warranted. Anger, on the other hand, allows me to acknowledge that I deserve better, I deserve top surgery, it sucks it didn't happen, and I'm upset about it. And it allows me to channel those feelings of being like damn, I wish I was having top surgery when my scheduled date was, onto a healthier place, onto saying that I want to plan for how to make the next 3 months enjoyable, how to make it bearable, onto feeling like I deserve to feel comfortable in my body, and I want to make sure that I either get that next date or that I get called up from the waiting list. It allows me to feel like I have the right to vent frustrations to friends and to vent about the world and the surgery center and COVID and the healthcare system and all the different factors that led to my date getting canceled. I would rather be mad at those factors than mad at myself. And I think at the end of the day, the way I experience sadness and despair is sort of, it's all an internal feeling, and it's all just trapped on me, whereas anger carries with it the possibility for change and the possibility for acknowledging that I deserve better. I'm so grateful that I'm able to experience anger, because it's anger that allows me to feel like I can move on, and it's anger that allows me to feel like I can stand up for what I want and what I believe in. And so I think it would certainly surprise pre-testosterone me to hear how positive anger has been for me. But before I started testosterone, my only experiences of anger were sort of the out-of-control fits of rage I would go into when I was in the midst of puberty at age 13. And experiencing anger when you're in your 20s is just not like that. And that's not to say that you'll love the experience of feeling anger while on testosterone, if you're considering starting. I know that there are plenty of trans guys who go on testosterone who like the physical changes but stop because they prefer sort of emotionally to be estrogen dominant. And if that's you, that's cool too. There are people who, like the emotional depth that estrogen can give them, who feel more creative, like they have better dreams, all of that sort of thing. And so there's no sort of value statement that being on testosterone is good and estrogen is bad. But it's more to say that anger might work for you. It might be okay. You might like it. And it doesn't need to be something you're afraid of, as long as you have a good support system and as long as you're working on and aware of the fact that you do need to be in control of your emotions, including anger. Yeah, here I am nearing 2 years on testosterone, and I absolutely hope that I could spend my whole life on testosterone. I feel so good emotionally. I feel more like myself than I've ever felt, and I just don't want to stop. It's pretty great.